Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, fellow badasses. Welcome to BOYBAS. Today, I'm excited to bring two panelists on today to talk about embracing duality. But first, I thought I would share a bit with you. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling a flutter between calm and chaos and sort of the dance between both of those. And it was very fitting for today's topic. I recently had carpet added upstairs, and that process was very chaotic, to say the least. You have to remove everything from your upstairs in order to then get that new carpet. So we had things just in all kinds of odd places. Our bathtub was filled, our bathroom was filled on both of those. We had an entire room downstairs filled up. But now the carpet is in, and I'm starting to sense some of the calm. There's still some chaos that is left over, and things that are the remnants. But what I have found is that in between part of like chaos and as it becomes calm, that's where I think that most of us really enjoy as we're getting that sense of calm and what it brings. There have been many times in my life where I have enjoyed those moments of deep, serene calm, only to really find myself swept up suddenly in that whirlwind of chaos. But that duality is really a reflection of the fluidity that we all experience, that yin and the yang of our everyday lives. And it sometimes, isn't until these moments that I really appreciate the calm that then comes, and then also the growth or the insight or the creativity from sometimes the chaos that has happened. And so I'm curious from our audience, have you been feeling it too? There's also things going on in the world where there's a lot of chaos going on as well. But here's the thing, think back on a time when what seemed like chaos turned into a catalyst for positive change. And that is where we're at right now. And the thing is, beautiful things come from chaos. And so I just want to hear from you. Are you feeling it as well? Let me know that you are here, and we're going to be bringing on our panelists very soon. But I'd like to say hello to people that are already saying hello. So good morning, Miss Carmen. She says, good morning, my favorite beautiful badass. Have the best day. Love and miss you. I miss you too, Miss Carmen. Thank you for always getting up so early in California and just being an amazing friend. One of our panelists also says, great to be here. We're excited to bring you on as well. Nick. And then J-Road, Jennifer is here. She says, good morning, badass. Having an awesome show. Sending lots of love and good juju your way. Thank you. And so as you guys are joining us, please say hello. I see we have some people from YouTube, some also from LinkedIn. I know we also have some from Facebook as well. So let us know that you are here. And so today we're going to be talking about embracing your dual nature and then discovering that balance with the law of polarity. And really, I've been trying to use the word more like fluidity versus balance. It was something in the last show that Dr. Deb was introducing to me, because I've always thought of things like the scales of balance, but really, when you start to think about duality, it's really the flow and the fluidity between the two. And so I'm embracing or looking to embrace some other words like harmony and fluidity, but sometimes the word balance just sometimes still makes sense for me. So I'll be curious as we talk today how we talk about duality and the law of polarity. And so As we dive into the law of polarity, it is really just a reminder that every aspect of the universe has two sides. And what seems like opposites are simply really different degrees on the same continuum. And the principle shows us that the difference between positive and negative thoughts empowers us to really I to take those challenges and change them into opportunities and really just appreciate the beauty and the happiness in life. So with that, I'd like to bring our panelists on. Let me go ahead and unmute them first, and then let's get this switched over. And so welcome. Today our panelists are Terry Price and Nicole, also Nick Angai-Galindo. Tell me if I said that correctly. And they're going to bring some amazing, unique perspectives to today's conversation. So welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Thanks for having us.
Well, first, let me do a little bit of introduction. So in the middle, we have Terry. He is Chief Information Officer at FSB, and he has over 25 years of experience in technology leadership. And we were talking a little bit of tech talk before we got on and started talking about moving to the cloud and all of that chaos that can happen with going from on-prem to cloud. But through his experiences, he has really focused on not only demonstrating the balance in the key of both the digital world, but also in his life. And so we'll dive into that today. And then Nick, also known as the Gifted Bipolar Writer, is a dynamic publisher, speaker, and host who celebrates every facet of her bipolar experience. And their combined insight today is really going to help us to dive into this topic. And I am very excited to have both of them. I was telling them that I invited them, or I sent them both an invite back in the beginning of February, if you can imagine that. Here we're at the end of September, and both of them immediately said yes. So I sent the topics, and they both, we ended up landing on this particular topic for them. So they had to wait this entire time for us to then talk about this. And so I also would love to have each of you give maybe a little bit more insight to yourself as well. I've given sort of the high level introductions to yourself, but maybe give us a little bit more of the flavor of like the personal side of each of you as well. And so who would like to go first?
Ladies first, for sure.
Thank you so much. So I'm Nick. I live in New York. I'm a wife, a mother, and most recently a business owner. I left my job in February to start Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing House LLC. I'm not a studied writer, nor am I a businesswoman. I am simply a woman with a big heart and who truly believes in the power of storytelling, and that our legacy needs to be left indelibly. And they're just things that our future generations need to know, need to understand, and to know that they're not walking alone. So I decided to go into publishing and make it an affordable way for people to be able to get their stories out there.
Nice. So if people are interested in telling their story, maybe what is the best way, just real quick, that they can connect with you?
Honestly, LinkedIn is the easiest. It's the platform I'm most active on, but I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I could be reached there as well. And my email is super easy, Nick, and I see the GBW, which is Gifted Bipolar Writer, Nick, the GBW at gmail.com.
Nice. Thank you for that. All right, Terry, tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, Terry Price from Oklahoma. Started my career as not actually in IT. So I started out in the art world, wanted to be a graphical artist, but ended up mowing the grass at a hospital, going through college, ended up changing my degree path to computer science, and I went from mowing the grass to eventually becoming CIO, working pretty much every aspect of IT, and really living the growth of IT during the biggest moments when networks were expanding, the technology was changing, But once I got into leadership, I saw that the technology wasn't as important as what it was. It was more of the people and the leadership and building more leaders and moving them forward.
Yeah. And you came from the healthcare industry and then into the architectural space as well. So that was also a different
Absolutely.
change.
Yes, right after the pandemic, 2021 is when I made that significant change. Architecture and engineering world has been excellent. We've had a great time with this group and look forward to many years with them.
Yeah. And I love that I am connected to each of you in sort of different ways. So, Terry, I know more from like a client perspective, and having worked with him. And then Nick, I connected with you just watching your content and things like that and through other people. And so I just love how you get connected to different people through different ways. And today I think that both of you also potentially have, I think as we start to look at things, you guys have some similarities, and you also have some differences, some stark differences as well. So most of the time people might look at both of you and think, polar opposites, but beforehand you both talked about some things that to me also brought commonality and similarities together in the stories that both of you have had. And so I want to say hello to a couple more people. So Leah is on here. She says, yay. So excited to see you today. So thanks so much. She also said, great to meet you, Terry. So thank you so much for joining us today. We also have a couple of other people joining us. Chasen also is joining us, saying hello. So thank you so much for joining us. He also says hello to Terry as well. And we also have Kim joining us, saying good morning and happy Friday to each of you, amazing badasses. Yes, I agree. This is going to be an amazing conversation, Leah. And so I'm trying to get that comment up. There we go. Let me get back down. And maybe. There we go. And so I think it's going to be an amazing conversation as well. And thank you, Eric, for coming. He's always given us our good badass morning. And so excited to see you again today. And then we also have Jamie that is joining us. So welcome, Jamie. I believe this is the first time you have been here as well. So welcome. And yes, today, let's see, agreed, and many are either afraid or don't know how to tell their story. And so today we're going to be doing more of that. So thank you. Continue to come in. And I see Miss Maria. She says, morning, you all. This is going to be a good one. I agree. So let's get started. So the law of polarity, really one of the things that I love about it is that it really suggests that challenges are hidden opportunities. And so I wanted to know if each of you could share an example from your personal or maybe even your professional life where maybe a difficult situation evolved into a pathway for growth or showcasing the fluidity of circumstances. And so who'd like to take that one first?
Definitely your turn, Terry.
I appreciate that. I'm going to have to say probably my transition from the technical side to more of the clinical side in the hospital. One of my chief nursing officers came to me. I was sitting in a network administrator role, and I had a good rapport with the clinical staff at that time. And he came to me with an opening for a clinical systems analyst. And I was really unsure about my acceptance into that world due to the fact that I'm not licensed anywhere clinically, and what that would look like from the clinical perspective, nursing, respiratory therapists, and physicians. So it kind of put me in a little bit of a, negative thought process. I didn't really think I could fulfill that position. And he really did a great job sitting me down and saying, you've been able to fill every other position that we've offered you. You have a great drive, and we believe you can do it. So I accepted that position with reluctance in a major way. But once I got in, I started, asking the questions, reviewing, sitting with the nursing staff and watching their workflow and learning what they were doing. And again, in the very beginning, it was just like that. People were asking, well, why are you a clinical systems analyst? And I just tell them that's a great question, but we'll figure it out. And we did. We sat down again, and I asked the right questions, evidently, because it ended up being a successful path, and it put me in front of the right people to move my career forward. Honestly, I don't think if I wouldn't have had that opportunity as a clinical systems analyst, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So he opened that door for me. I accepted the challenge, and here we are.
Yeah, I love that. One, it sounds like was it your boss at the time? Is that who it was? Or just a colleague?
Just a colleague. He was our chief nursing officer. So
Okay.
yeah, he was kind of part of the, choosing who was going to go into that role, because he wanted somebody that was going to stick around. And he knew that at that point in time, I think I'd been there, I don't know, 7-8 years at that point. So
Yeah. So, what I love about this person is that they saw maybe that you had this capability within you. Like they saw things about you in your capabilities. And a lot of times those things are hidden from us, that sometimes it takes someone else to see that possibility. But in that moment, you could have said, oh no, like that, this makes no sense whatsoever. And a lot of times we are, I guess, reluctant to really take that step or move forward and take on that challenge. So that's an amazing hidden opportunity that had you not taken it on, you, like you said, you wouldn't be here where it is that you are today. And so it's those moments of having someone have the belief in you first, and then you having belief in yourself.
absolutely. And again, like you said, I mean, he spoke positivity, to me, and believed in my path forward. It was an excellent opportunity that I didn't realize at the time, and definitely owe a lot to him.
Nice. I love that. Well, maybe he'll see this today. We'll do that
I hope
little
so.
clip for him. And so, Nick, what are your thoughts on this as far as some challenges that you've had that maybe were hidden opportunities? Maybe I have maybe an idea, but I'm interested to hear if that's what it'll be.
Well, I think that most that know me as a gifted bipolar writer would think that I would start there, because my tagline
Yeah.
is, of course, I can, not despite my bipolarness, but because of it. That's not a challenge that comes to mind right away for me, though. It is definitely, I think, falling because I had to rise into who I needed to become.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, at the end of 22, I started working for a company that I was very, very happy in. And I was 5 months in when I fell on my left knee and broke that patella into 4 places. I sit here now and I'm wearing a dress, so I could see that 6-inch scar on my knee and a few of the screw heads poking out of it. It is a constant reminder that you don't know necessarily where life is going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be open to what can happen, even if you think you are where you want to be or need to be. That just put me down, and recovery for 3 months threw me, of all places, into LinkedIn, simply because I had all this time in my hands, and I knew that being alone that much could possibly spiral me into a deep depression, because I've been there before, and that's not where I wanted to be. And honestly, posting and documenting my recovery process found me in such a community that made me feel really seen and heard. And with that came opportunities to be a guest on live shows, to co-author in books. And there I rediscovered, and I say rediscovered, a passion for writing because, back in the day I did, life takes over, you got bills to pay, you get married, all sorts of things happen. And you sometimes forget the dreams you once had. And this one just seemed to circle back around. And, with all the writing came more opportunities. And that allowed me to give other people opportunities. So you never know when that one thing might seem, accidental. Is it really? That's the question.
Yeah. And it is interesting that sometimes the biggest challenges that we have when we really take time and look back on it, we are like, oh, but if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened in our life. So for me, the law of polarity allows us to see sadness or being upset as later on, it's really becoming maybe fulfillment or happiness or joy. So it really is that continuum of this situation, even though how devastating it may have been, and it still may even be, it then opens the doors to the possibilities, which is that other side of the continuum. And so I think I was getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if it's on your side, Terry, or nope, I think it's gone. So, all right, awesome. And so I love both of the stories because both of you were, it's about taking that opportunity and not really knowing that opportunity was even there as well. But you also said something very interesting as well, Nick, that this was something that sort of circled around. So was that something you had a desire in? And do you think that this particular incident sort of pushed it back? Like, oh, remember this desire you had?
Yes, I think it was definitely a desire in me. And I think there are things that I have always known about myself, but throughout my various careers, they shone a little bit, but none of them allowed me to really bring out all the aspects of myself. And I honestly feel on a personal level, I had accomplished so much after falling into the worst depression at the end of 2020 after COVID and going out on 2-month STD for somebody that never missed a day of work. That was crippling. But more than that, it was not even feeling like I wouldn't come back. I didn't want to come back. So, giving up drinking, staying on my combination of medication, keeping up with my psychiatric visits, all of that brought me to a level of self-awareness personally that I could better manage my bipolarness. And as odd as this may sound, I think the universe just said it's time. She's not going to leave this job because she loves it. She loves the team, but she's learned everything she needs to learn here, which incidentally I started in operations and ended up in bookkeeping, which was almost like the last thing I needed to learn to put myself into business, right? Because I worked in skilled trades, I worked as a project manager, and these collaborations I run, the biggest was 36 writers. So all the experience I had came forward. And now it's okay, you know what? Enough of Nick the employee. Now it's Nick the business owner. And the universe just said, this is your time. Here it is. Live in faith over fear. Go. And I went.
Yeah. I think that this is also really leading us into one of the other things that I think is important on this topic is sometimes reinterpreting that challenging situation through the lens of a new perspective. as well. And Terry, I'm curious if you have an experience like that where you've taken a challenge, and reinterpreted it through that lens of duality that allowed you to be able to shift your perspective.
Absolutely. So I would say some of the most challenging, especially in my career, would be moving from a tech to an IT director and then into a CIO position. Each one of those take on a whole different perspective of how you kind of see things, through a different lens. And of course, each one comes with a new challenge. Moving from a tech to the IT director, it went from me, being by myself in this little isolated dome doing my job daily to, well, now I'm responsible for the entire IT stack and all the employees, not to mention, the budget of IT. And so at first it was a kind of a scary situation because you're used to working by, I wouldn't say by myself, but isolated more versus taking on the entire team. um, and then once I jumped into the CIO position, that took on a whole nother perspective. I went from a little bit bigger picture to the entire picture, which meant I didn't have to just only look at my budget. I had to look at the entire hospital's budget. So where me buying a few computers was my, ultimate goal as an IT director. I had to look at it from a bigger lens and say, okay, well, actually, the ER needs a crash cart. I can, put my computer needs to the side, and we can invest in that crash cart. But it just takes on a whole different level of thinking. And then, of course, for each stage, your leadership skills need to expand that much more, because you're going from a smaller team to an even bigger team. As a CIO, you have a lot more people reporting to you, not to mention, the entire organization is looking at you as a leader. So you've got to step up your game and, make sure that you are sharpening your skills, not only in the professional side of, for me, technical, but also your leadership skills and making sure that you continue to move these people forward, because you've got to have a contingency plan in case something happens to you. It takes on a whole different meaning for each different step. So
Yeah.
very, very challenging for sure to switch lenses.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about like backstage, one of the things that you had also mentioned to us is moving from the reason that you ended up moving to the architectural side. And I think that that also very much fits. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So actually it was in 2021. I can tell you the date actually
Mm.
to the day. It was June 2nd because it was my 25th anniversary. Ended up uh, they thought I had a stroke at the hospital and took me to the ER, worked it up, stroke protocol. Come to find out, they diagnosed me with complex hemiplegic migraines, which mimic strokes, which is induced by physical and mental stress. Um, and got home, and my wife asked me if it was really worth it. And I asked her what was really worth it. And she says, this career path that you have, you're constantly stressed, you're constantly working. We got to figure this out because our life here at home is not great, which I will admit. Uh, my me as a father, me as a husband wasn't the best at that time. There's no doubt. Um, it, uh, Apologize. It was kind of a rough time in my life, but
Yeah.
we got through it. My wife supported me 100%. We moved forward, and we were able to um, make that change. And I got to stick in the IT world. There's no doubt about it. And we moved into from Western Oklahoma to Central Oklahoma. Huge change for all of us because here we are, small rural town in Western Oklahoma of about 10,000 people to Central Oklahoma, which Oklahoma City is not that big, but it's huge to me. But it's a big change for everybody. And now I've got a position that it's totally different. The work-life balance is there. My wife and I are able to go and enjoy life. We get to spend time with our grandkids, our daughter, our sons, their wives. It's just been a total change. And,
Mm.
it was, I think in the end, my wife was like, we got to figure this out. So I owe a lot of that to her.
That's amazing. First, just thank you for opening up and sharing that. I know that that's always, sometimes very personal stuff. Hopefully, also maybe there's someone here that, as they're, if they are, having someone that is also experiencing things, they'll, also help them understand maybe through your lesson or through your story how it is that they can relook at things. That it doesn't mean that you have to end necessarily what it is you're doing, but maybe it means to stop and take a little bit more time for yourself and shift. And it doesn't mean that you have to shift completely. You stayed in the IT side of the house, but you just went in a different area, something that was less stressful. So kudos to your wife for calling it out and saying, like, you need to take care of yourself. So that's amazing.
It was, I mean, and it was quite the experience, like I said, to spend your 25th anniversary sitting in a hospital bed due to stress. So it was very eye-opening for sure.
Yeah. And Nick, any other thoughts on like things that you have gone through that really allowed you to look at things and shift your perspective?
I think that it took time for me to get to the point where I could slow down enough to step back and observe.
Mm.
Observe myself, observe the situations that I was in, and the things that were happening to me rather than for me.
Mm.
It's so funny, we're speaking about the law of polarity, and with every up, there is a down. So I got myself all together nicely, and if you're hearing rumbling in the background, my neighbor decided to start blowing the leaves. And my tummy is growling, and I don't know why. And that's why I went on mute. No, I know why, because at 10 o'clock, my alarm goes off for breakfast. And I'm here. But yes, I don't know that things necessarily force you to change perspective.
Mm.
I think that in life, you learn, you evolve, and with every level of evolvement, your self-awareness builds. And I lean into that self-awareness so much because I know that is the reason for why I'm here. Not that tons of people haven't helped me along the way, including an incredibly supportive husband, but at the end of the day, you are the catalyst for the change. People can't support you till they're blue in the face, but if you are not willing to fix that mirror and make the changes, you're not going to change. And that whole perspective shift starts with you, and it starts from within.
I love that. And I'm going to pull this up, and it really is the pause. It's the power of the pause. And so in Terry's instance, it was his wife saying, like, stop, pause, like, what are we doing here? And Nick, for you, it was, I think like, wait, what am I doing here? I don't know if there was anybody else externally as well that was giving that to you as well. But I think the power of the pause really helps with understanding what it is that's going on. And as we're seeing that back and forth feeling of what do I do, we gain a lot of clarity just through that pause of taking some time to really understand. And you said something else, we actually covered last month the law of relativity, which actually is that things are happening for us, not to us. And so that particular law also very much applies to here. So being in the middle of the power struggle or the dynamic of the polarity, we can also call upon those other laws as well to be able to help us. And so I love that. Well, Terry, I want to ask a specific question to you. And
Okay.
so you have over 25 years of leadership experience, and I want to understand a little bit more. You've talked about the team and those types of things. How do you cultivate a culture where different opinions and perspectives sort of merge into a fluid environment that encourages both creativity as well as that practical execution?
Absolutely. So honestly, I mean, first and foremost, you've got to sit down and practice a few things yourself. You know, humility and honesty to me is two of the major things that is important for a leader to be an example. When you don't know the answer to something, uh, be honest. I don't know the answer, but I've got a lot of resources. I bet we can figure it out. You know, don't lie. You know, so I try to create an environment that is, that allows that the perspectives and the opinions of individuals to sit down and have conversations uh, and throw out their honest opinions to where they're not going to be criticized. Um, that way we can move things forward, because you want both ends of the spectrum. You want the naysayers and you want the ones that are going to move it forward, because in the end, those naysayers may be pointing out roadblocks that you may be not seeing during, say, an implementation or a rollout. So it's really important to bring all those individuals together, sit down and have honest conversations again, to where nobody's being judged, and they're not afraid to throw out their opinions, come together with a great idea, move the project forward.
Yeah, I love that. You need those people that are gonna push it forward. You also need to be mindful of the people that just because they're a naysayer doesn't necessarily mean that they're a naysayer for a negative reason. They may be a naysayer because they're seeing, like you said, those roadblocks or the challenges you haven't necessarily seen. So I love uh, being able to take a look at those different perspectives. And sometimes in the moment, we're like, no, let's just go.
Yeah, right.
And we just want to keep making progress, but in that progress, we might not get there as fast as had we just again slowed down and looked at the situation and what it is people are trying to alert us to.
Exactly, because you can get blinders on. You're going so fast, you don't see the roadblocks or the speed bumps. You just have tunnel vision, and those others can bring you back down and grounded again, and help you identify those possible speed bumps or roadblocks.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Nick, as you and I, as I introduced this particular topic to you, I had said that I thought that this would be a really good topic. I had sort of pointed it out. And I'm curious, as you started to look at this topic and given your personal journey with bipolar experience, I was curious how you have seen the interplay of opposites in your life in that way.
Absolutely. And I would be the first to say that I went to Google the law of polarity, because I want a definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak as to my experiences and my logic, based on my experiences. So that being said, I think at the very beginning, learning to embrace that bipolar part of me is what helped me tap into or trust that I had the ability to write. Meaning, I already was always very good at writing.
Mm.
But wanting to believe that I had something to write that somebody would want to read was one part of it. And the other part of it was saying, look, you always say you feel things in a very tangible way. That person that dreams and gets up and says, oh my goodness, is there mud at my feet, right? Like you see in the movies. So I decided, look, I'm going to put my writing in such a way that it's not the peaks and the valleys, but it's the spikes and plunges that I feel. That roller coaster where you're at the top and the ride's stuck, and when you don't expect it, it drops. Because that's what being bipolar feels like. It feels like a light switch. Somebody walked in the room and shut it off. And you're feeling around in the dark and you can't find the light switch to turn it back on. And when you do, it's stuck. You want to turn it back on, but you can't.
Right.
And I think now, understanding that there was a time I felt that I woke up 6 feet under every day and clawed my way to the surface so I could start a day. And I want to say like everybody else, because I don't know what other people are going through, but that I could start a day, right? Make a cup of coffee, go and take a shower, get dressed for work, fight the nausea that's coming up, get in the car, sit on one hand while I drive with the other because that hand's shaking, and then I get to work and I'm okay. That to live with bipolar disorder is tough. There's no doubt about it. I'm bipolar 2. My dad's bipolar 1. He hasn't functioned a day in his life since I was 15. My sister and I take care of him. He's got that side with the mania, and I'm grateful every day that I don't. And again, that law of polarity. I came onto this space and embraced my bipolarness publicly. In that sense, so many people were inspired to try to do it. And I can't reach my own father. And that's the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
And it is accepting that both sides are necessary for you to meet in the middle, because that's where you get shit done. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. We can say whatever we want here. So thank you for that. I know that that's got to be very tough. You're not only fighting for yourself, but in a way, you're also wanting to fight for your father. I can see that within you. And sometimes we also have to realize that just by us fighting and accomplishing and overcoming for ourselves, we're doing it for our generation. So you are doing it for your father. You're just not necessarily maybe doing it for him in this moment, but you're doing it for the future, for your overall lineage and for your overall family line. And so you should be very, very proud of yourself for that. Yeah. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was very emotional, I could tell, and very vulnerable. So thank you for that. As I'm thinking about, so my grandmother was bipolar, and she was my step grandmother, but she was the only grandmother that I really knew. So I grew up understanding what bipolar was, and she went through those as well, as far as the ups and the downs in her life. And I do know that she ended up getting on. For her, she ended up getting on medicine that ended up helping her to stay more, I guess, in balance. And she was just a beautiful person. One of the things that stood out to me the most about her is that no matter what we did, she never got upset at us. Like the getting into her makeup and getting into her clothes and, putting on her high heels and all of those types of things, she never got upset. She was the most gentle, just lovely person in my life. And so I didn't really see a lot of the ups and downs, but I knew just from my mother that those were things that she knew about or experienced. So I wasn't really privy to a lot of those types of things. I do have someone who was actually on here previously, who's actually in relation to my aunt or my grandmother. She's on that side. She actually has bipolar too, and I had her on. Her name was Emily Penton. Interestingly enough, she actually does carnivore, and she no longer has to take any of her bipolar medicine. So they ended up weaning her off of that. So I thought that I would mention that because I thought that that was interesting to sort of understand a little bit more about how it impacted the brain. So, but I love that you are embracing, like who you are, and also seeing it as the gift of also helping you with writing, because a lot of times people look at how we're different sometimes and we see that as a negative, but we have that ability to also look at it in that positive aspect as well, and what it also brings into our life as well. And it seems like that's the lens or the view that you're looking at. Is it's not that you don't have these negative aspects that you're dealing with, because you can definitely see that, but there's so much beauty in it as well, in the things that you're doing as well. Any thoughts on that?
I appreciate everything you're saying. And, I just want to touch on something that
Yeah.
Terry was talking about as well, honesty and humility. I think those are two traits that helps anybody throughout their lives to go next level. And I used to feel, in a sense, that it was necessary to display humility in the form of, no, don't praise me,
Mm.
I think my perspective on humility has actually changed. People would say humility could be a sign of weakness. People say, it could be a sign of cockiness, actually, in an underhanded way.
Hmm.
I feel humility can only be experienced if it's something shared. So therefore, people thank me as a publisher for helping them to find their voice and put themselves out there. And I, in turn, say thank yourself for saying yes to the opportunity, because no people, no stories, no stories, no books.
Mm.
So humility to me is a two-way street, because humility comes from wanting to, people would say, not accept credit for, and I'm starting to lean into that's bull. I am not going to not accept credit for how far I've come. And this is only something very recent, mind you.
Yeah.
And it boils down to this: I am doing it. There's proof in the pudding that I am doing it. Everybody told me I was doing it for years. People say, stop saying you're a new publisher, because you're not. Because I was doing it 2 years outside of my job, alongside it. It had to take me waking up going, what more proof in the pudding do you want?
Mm.
You booked out 10 months for the new year. Like, is that not, would you not tell somebody else that that's proof in the pudding? Like, wake up. You say you walk your talk, then walk it, right? And just thank you for your opportunity. And thank you for Terry being here as well, because with every single word we utter and every single new person we meet and every single new experience, we don't realize how much we take away until later down the line, this conversation is going to come back to me.
Absolutely. I think about the word humility, and whenever I think about the opposite, it's really arrogance. But when we look at it on that continuum of the law of polarity, what is maybe, the in between? Like sometimes we need humility. Sometimes we need more towards maybe, and one of the things I've been looking at with the law of polarity is like on a scale of 0 to 10, where is it that people feel like, people need to be, or where do I need to be on that? Sometimes we need to be more towards, that confident, arrogant, side, but then there's maybe too much, in getting there. And then, like you said, sometimes people see humility sometimes in the negative. And I think for me, where it ends up making the most sense is when I feel at peace, or when I'm like, I know my truth, and I know that like this is I know where my heart is, because that's where I tend to find the peace. And it really doesn't matter what other people think on where they think I am on that continuum. What do you guys think about that?
No, I agree. I mean, in the end, I think the law of polarity, I'm going to probably date myself a little bit here, but, it's like an FM radio versus a cassette player.
Mm,
A cassette player, you have a play and you have a stop. And, the FM radio, there's a dial. You got to tune it in just right to get the right reception. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of static. So to me, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, it's a balance. So you got to find that perfect tune and move it forward.
Oh, I love that visual because, I mean, for those that really, I know now they just press a button, but for us back in the day, we'd be like trying to like get like that perfect little tune of getting into that station, because we didn't have like the number of like 106.5. We had to turn the dial to get to the 106.5, and that's really it. Like it's different, and it's also different for each of us as well. Like some of us might need to push it down, and others need to push it up. And I think that's it as well, is that we're all wired differently. We all have our own different unique talents as well. So that's going to be different for each of us. What do you think, Nick?
I like that analogy as well. I think it's all of us being okay to be on the frequency we are at any given time, and understand that in a day we could be on many different frequencies, right?
Yeah.
It's that ability to pivot. It's that ability to stay present and trust your instincts to know what the next step is, because you're not always going to know, and therefore you won't want to take it. And that's staying stagnant is not an option for me. Right? It simply isn't. If I choose to sit because I'm tired, there's a big difference between that and being rooted to the spot. And I'm glad that you dated yourself, because I remember back then on a Saturday morning, I grew up in Trinidad, and my mom would always get her cassette tapes made from a DJ. She'd bring them home, listen to Enrique Iglesias. Is that the Julio Iglesias? Oh my goodness. And you like the song, so you keep pressing fast forward and rewind, but you don't know where it's going to stop. Is it going to stop and start in the space you want it to? And you had the patience to stop and play until you got where you needed to. What's changed? Nothing's changed. It's knowing when to stop and knowing when to go. You still have to go, but sometimes you have to stop. And
music.
Yeah, exactly. And back in that day, I'm sorry, but that's when music. Okay, be nice, Nicole. I'll shut up now. Cannot say anything about any other generation except the Gen Xers are the best.
Gen X rules. I heard it. I'm going to pull up some comments. So Melissa had previously said slow down to speed up, always. Jamie was also sharing that my mom was bipolar. So, it impacts a lot of people in this world. And then I'm not able to see this particular user, your name, but thank you for commenting. I'm going to try to see if I can see it real quick. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So over sentimental, overthinking, making positive things into negative. Lack of self-reliance, self-motivation, determination makes you feel down, not loving or enjoying whatever or whoever one is, but frequently being obsessed, over ambitious, comparing life to others, maybe some of many people lives, being already highly successful and noted personality in society or any corner of world, is main cause of feeling down, and more importantly, coordination of heart and mind being disturbed impacts on life. So thank you for that. I think there's some really good thoughts within this, as far as sometimes we really are comparing ourselves to others in life. The old phrase of keeping up with the Joneses. Well, you know what? The Joneses aren't really, in my shoes, and I'm not in theirs. And so when we compare ourselves, we're actually doing ourselves a very big disservice, because our situations may be differently. So, as an example, some families are able, to spend money because they have done maybe certain things that have gotten them there. And sometimes we end up going back and we have to readjust what it is we're doing. And sometimes people are still growing in their family and they're not quite there. So if you compare yourself to someone else, like I should be there, they're my same age, or, we have the same kids, even though we're different, different ages, we're really just comparing ourselves with, without any real context of all the different things that have gone in each of our lives. So thank you for that. You guys have any thoughts on any of the comments there? Oh, yeah, I think you might be on mute, Nick.
No, I was saying if you want to go, Terry. Sorry.
Oh, so yeah, I'm looking at the AI comment.
Yeah.
I being in technology, of course, right now AI has been the buzzword for the last couple years, and I mean that's what we're seeing, a lot of. But again, AI is that's a double-edged sword. I mean, it can be either your friend or your foe. It depends on the user. It depends on the person and the personality. But no, I have to agree. It can be embarrassing. That's for sure. We just got to be. Well, for one, I've always said AI is not the painting. It's actually one of the tools. It's the brush or the paint in your toolbox. So again, it's all about perspective and how you use it.
Yeah. I even think about in the past, almost everyone would tell me, oh, social media, Facebook, it's all, really bad and things like that. And then I tell them the story and how amazing I was actually able to utilize Facebook. So I had gone to Italy, and my ring at the time kept causing a reaction, and it was because I was allergic to gold. So I'd taken my ring off in Italy. I'd put it in the drawer in Italy. We left Italy, coming back to the United States, and we were at the airport. We had already closed the door. Like there was no way of getting back in it anyways if we had left, but I left my ring in Italy, my wedding ring. And so here I am at the airport, like, holy crap, like what am I going to do? So I went through several things. Like I reached out to the person. He's like, we found it, we have it. But then they tried to ship it to me and they were unable to ship it because they were afraid that it was going to get stolen as it came over. So I went on Facebook and I said, anybody going to Italy over the next time period? And I had a person after person that connected with me. And I ended up not only getting someone who was in Rome, Italy at that time, this person also lived in Atlanta. And that's where I lived. And they came back and brought me my ring. But had I not had Facebook to be able to connect to people I didn't even know, people were sharing it left and right, ended up being on Good News, as an article in that type of thing. We can look at things as negative, but we also can look at it as the positive of what it can bring as well.
I agree. I mean, social media is definitely a double-edged sword. I mean, we see it used for harassment. We always have the keyboard warriors, but then we also have these good situations like yours that, has great outcomes. I mean, without social media, with us living in Oklahoma City area and my son's living out in Western Oklahoma, we wouldn't be able to share some of the experiences and the daily things that are going on in their lives and our lives, and seeing pictures of our grandkids, and we feel like we're actually there. Again, it's all how you use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to start to begin to wrap things up. First, I got to pull up Janice's comment because, Gen X had the best music. I was listening. I'm always introducing my daughter to my music. This was actually a little bit later, but my daughter was singing the other day. This was like 90s music. She was singing, I'm like a bird, only fly away. And
That's good.
and then I started singing it with her, and she was like, how do you know this song? And I was like, because it came out during my generation. She was like, no, this is brand new. And I'm like, I just started laughing because that's what I used to say to my mother back in the day as well. So it's just very secular. And so as we start to wrap up today in the Law of Polarity, I want to maybe also focus a little bit on the things that we can focus on as far as like taking risk versus reward. And we talked a little bit about positive versus negative, but I'm curious, in your life, how do you think acknowledging and navigating those opposing forces can also create the harmony and inspire more effective decision makings in our lives or in our professional settings? And I always think of sort of the risk reward in life, that sometimes if you don't take that risk, you won't get the reward. Or if you're constantly thinking negative, I tell my daughter all the time, she's like, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, then you can't, like if that's how you feel about it. So I'm curious how, that acknowledging those opposing forces can really help us to then create the harmony and inspire more effective decision makings or more impact in our lives.
All right, so I'll take that one first. So I'm giddily happy. There's no other way to say it. And I know that it's because I'm at peace. It took me time in this first year, and I'll end this year earning maybe a third of what I earned in my job. That plagued me for a while this year, stressing how bills are going to get paid. It makes you take less risk and make poorer decisions, like wanting to be desperate for clients or overgiving, right? Underpricing yourself and things like that. When my husband said, the hardest thing for me is going to, how am I going to be alone? Because I'm a people person. He said, no, the hardest thing for you is going to be not to tie your worst paycheck. And he was right on the money. Because I'm thinking, I have a meeting at 12. When I'm done here, I'm going to go sit outside in the sun and I'm going to replant my fall vegetables. I get to go lay my hammock when it's a nice day out at 1 o'clock and fall asleep for 15 minutes. What is the reward? What is the reward that you think is the reward? Are you focusing on that reward and thinking you don't have it? There are hidden rewards that you don't see. And so therefore, for me, risk is simple. Is the reward greater than the sacrifice? And when you start to feel that way, you realize that you actually didn't sacrifice. What you did was clear space to allow space for something better to come into your life. You just don't realize that sometimes that's the better. Like I smile and I laugh. My husband looks at me and he says, I know, maybe I'm too happy, but I'm not too happy. For all the years I've been miserable with my bipolarness, I will take and deserve every bit of happiness I have now.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by I want people to embrace not just their bipolarness, but where they are. People tell you, don't settle, don't become complacent, don't, the only way you're going to be happy in life is to accept where you are so that you can then look forward. Because if you don't, you're going to waste all your energy being miserable in the fact that you are somewhere you don't want to be. So, yeah, that's my closing.
Love it.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Terry, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the way I've always thought about risk is, if you worry too much, you're going to end up stagnant. You're just going to be sitting in one spot. If you chase reward too much, it can be reckless. It can be damaging as well. So there's got to be a true balance between the two. I mean, just like when, we were talking before the show about the cloud migration or staying on-prem. I mean, there's risk and reward on both of those, but you've got to take it into a perspective of what does that final outcome need to look like? In our world, in the A&E world, we've got to have mobility. We've got to have people are traveling, they're constantly going to projects or presenting, some of our proposals, different things like that. So, I had to look at, what it looked like for them, changing perspectives and what is the reward on that part. Yeah, there's going to be risks that come along with it, but how do we mitigate those? And in the end, is the risk worth the reward? And by far, since our transition, it's been definitely rewarding. People aren't tethered to their desks anymore like they used to be. They don't have a phone that's sitting on their desk. Everything is through Teams, and it's just they're a lot more mobile, and it's created an environment that has and it's an employee satisfier. So the reward was definitely worth the risk for sure.
I love that. Bringing in, from Nick, the personal side, and then also the business side. So I love how we're looking at it in so many different ways. As I start to look at also risk reward and the polarity of the two, I also think that it's important for us to ask, like, what is reward to us? Like, what is it that we really want? And sometimes it's very grand, like, I really want this. Well, that also sometimes means you're going to have to take some risk and you're going to have to feel okay with that. And it's also being at peace with, well, if it doesn't happen, being at peace that, maybe it didn't quite happen the way that you wanted, but where I've always found in my journey is that if I'm really wanting something, even if it doesn't go quite the way that I thought I was going to go, it ends up going the way that it needed to go. And you have this learning lesson along the way that gives you even further clarity in what it is that's really important in life. And as Nick said, sometimes it's sitting on that hammock, in that beautiful just moment of having peace within yourself. Sometimes it's, as Terry said, having the moments with your kids and your grandkids. Sometimes we don't even realize that we already have what it is that we actually need in life as well. And so I think that sometimes it is going back and defining what that reward really is, and do we already have it? And maybe we still want more. That's okay as well. But understanding you also have to be okay with the potential of what might also happen with that risk, and that's where you have to be at peace with both of them. So I love that balance of that, because you really have to be okay with either way that it goes. So thank you guys so much for today's conversation and just where it took us. And I'm just going to pop up a couple of other things that came in. So Melissa just given a hand applause. And so thank you for joining us, Melissa. Leah saying, congratulations. You are guided, brilliant writers. And then we also have Leah saying the struggle was real. And lastly, yay, Gen X. So thank you both for joining us. Thank you everyone who joined us today in talking about and finishing out the Law of Polarity. And next month, let's see, it's October, and I should have looked at this. So give me just a quick second to look at next month. Next month is, the law of gender. So it's very similar to the law of polarity, but we're going to be talking more about how it is that we can flow back and forth between the feminine and the masculine. And it has a very similar concept to the law of polarity, but also people being realizing that we all have the feminine and masculine aspect to us, no matter whether we're male or female, or something else. And so it's just being good with, being able to flow between each of those. And so again, thank you guys so much for joining us. And I look forward to continuing to stay in touch with you. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and come back next week as we get into our new topic.